I'm Babette Sandman. I have been on the Duluth Indigenous Commission. I believe it's coming up on 4 years. And so I don't know how much longer I'll be able to be on it. 4 more years. So we're about ready to do some good changes here. So what we're going to do is some of us are going to be telling some stories and how we relate to the ethnographic study to our own stories, our own ancestry. Oh yeah, I wanted to acknowledge Rick and Skip. Do you want to stand up, please? 2 of our spiritual elders in the community that do so much healing work and prayers for people, and they helped some people right prior to this gathering tonight, and we wish for all your work and your spiritual work and help. I'm an enrolled member of White Earth. I live in Duluth, and I work with juveniles, and my goal is to be called Grandma Babette by everybody. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to keep it short so that so that the stories we're going to be under 5 minutes, right?
Or less.
Or less. Under 5 minutes or less.
Well, wait a second. Some people aren't going to be 5 minutes. I heard you say.
No, we don't have to go a whole 5 minutes, but under 5 minutes. So I know attention spans can get kind of.
I'm not speaking, so somebody got my 5 minutes.
Attention spans can get, kind of hard this time of night, but if you know that we're going to be under 5 minutes, you can listen to our stories. So, and we'll start with whoever. Who wants to start first?
You can, here or there.
You want to start first? Okay. This just came to me tonight, how to start this out. I've lived in Duluth most of my life. So, London Road has its own personality. Some of you that aren't from here, you're not going to even know what I'm talking about. But the ones who are from here, you know what I mean. London Road, And then there's the West End, where I'm from, the friendly West End. And, the West Duluth. But there's another section that I wanted to talk about a little bit, was First Street. My family name is Boudreau, or Boudreau. There's 2 spellings of that, B-U-D-R-E-A-U or B-U-D-R-O-W. My grandmother, Margaret Boudreau, started out in Fond du Lac. And I am so interested, and I want to say this in front of historians. What happened? What happened in Fond du Lac? I'd really like to know. How did that removal happen? Because I feel like my grandmother was enticed to have 80 acres in White Earth. Can you imagine the shock? How many of you have been to White Earth? Okay, not many of you? It's like North Dakota. So to come from Fond du Lac to White Earth had to been, back in the 1800s, had to been a shock to get 80 acres of what? Sky and grass. I mean, I always think of that. So that's how we became White Earth tribal members, and from there was my grandmother born, my dad, and then my dad came to Duluth and met my mother. My dad's favorite place was First Street, and I don't know if many of you know about First Street. It's still going today. It's been going for years. A big family lives on First Street. My dad always considered the people on First Street his family. And but one of the beautiful things that happened back then was an Indian Center. And it was called American Indian Fellowship Association. We called it AFA. And my uncle, Vic Budrow, ran that Indian Center. So if you can imagine, right now, there's a liquor store on First Street. It was upstairs of that liquor store. Back then there wasn't a liquor store, but right now there is. It was upstairs of that. So when you got upstairs and you turned the corner, you would see red and white checkerboard tablecloths that were plastic and spoons in the middle of the table with in a canning jar. And then coffee was set up, sometimes some soup, always something to eat. And one of the people I remember the most very fondly was Gene Savage. He was an elder, I believe he was a very respected elder back then. I was 16 years old. But I would visit him every day there, and he would just talk about all kinds of stories that I'll have to tell the historians about. for the next story. But he would talk to me about all kinds of things, and he would tell me who I was related to in Fond du Lac, and I loved visiting with him, and that's what an Indian Center was to us, you know. You'd also see clothes sitting there, so if you didn't have clothes, there was always some clothes there. And it was really welcoming, and from there was the second Indian Center, which was straight up from there, across the street from the school with the big clock. Right on the corner. That was a really good Indian Center because we got fed every day, great big lunches. And Renee Bennet's grandmother, or mother, I'm not sure if it was her grandmother or her mother, cooked for my dad, who was always there. And so it's kind of like a community thing, you know, when you start looking at these stories, you wouldn't believe how we're all interconnected in these stories. They had powwows there, and I think I was 14, and all the Indian people at the powwows kind of made it seem like you need to stand up nice and straight when you dance. And I was doing that, and they were just proud of me, like, look at how she's dancing. So I'd always remember that today when I dance, and stand up nice and proud. Don't sit and look at my feet. So, is it getting close to 5 minutes? Okay. Well, that's all I wanted to say about the Indian Centers, and that's a story that's kind of getting invisible, like it never happened. And so I think we need to breathe air into AFA again, as far as, you know, people existed back there that held the Indian Center for the streets that had so many people drinking, and they were feeding them, and they were doing the best they can with the bare bones Indian Center. And so I just want to honor our Indian Centers that we had back. May